Shalom. In this video, we will be covering part 2, Gate Bait, of our Zohar introduction. So in the prior video, we learned about backs and fronts. We learned about a tree on top of a tree. We learned there's a rose and a rose. We learned that there's a tree on top of a tree. We learned that there's backs and fronts. So let us continue. Rabbi Hezekiah opened, like a rose among the thorns, so is my beloved among the maidens. Who is a rose? Assembly of Israel, for there's a rose and there's a rose. Just as a rose among the thorns is colored red and white. Keyword here, red and white. So the assembly of Israel include judgment and compassion. Just as a rose has 13 petals, so the assembly of Israel has 13 qualities of compassion surrounding her on every side. And so we ask ourselves, what does this mean? So, in order for us to understand what these 13 are, these 13 qualities, we must first find their essence. In Book 11 of the unabridged version, it says here in the concealed book, the second chapter, in it is explained the beard of faith. The beard is not mentioned in the Torah, prophets, or the writings, for it is written the eyes of Hashem, the ears of Hashem, and also his cheeks are like a bed of spices. Shir Hashirim 5:13. But there is no mention of the beard. This is because it is most precious and it comes from the ears, keep that in mind, where the beard starts. It encircles the shape of the face. Indeed, indeed. For the shape of the face is a tree, keep this in mind, as a white strand going up and down around the face, meaning that the beard in general looks like a white strand with white hairs around the face. Some of them go up, shining from below upwards, while some go down, shining from above downwards. It is explained in 13 characteristics. So right here, 13 characteristics. So what are these 13 characteristics? Let us get into this. In order for us to understand these 13 characteristics, we must go back to the beginning. The beginning here is Genesis. So, day 1, Yom Echad. Echad is a primary number. This is important because the other numbers are not. Echad is 1, but it also has a connotation of unification. Aleph, Chet, Dalet. The gematria value here is 13. Just as above here it says from Elohim 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Elohim again. Then we hear about the cup of salvation, and we hear about the 5 petals of the rose, which similarly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Elohim again. So what does this all mean? Well, in order for us to understand what the unity of Echad is, we must first analyze the second day, Yom Shani. Exodus 28:5 is pointed out here. Now let us go to Rashi's. In Exodus chapter 28, verse 6 here and 5, we read about scarlet yarn used for the tapestry of the inner sanctum. Here the word is shani. Shani. So scarlet. Scarlet. Why is this? Because this is in reference This is in reference to Gavura. For the 7 days are the 7 lower Sephiroth. And these 7 lower Sephiroth, are the mystery of the 7 days of creation. Like this. At the opening of the eyes. Now earlier I told you guys about backs and fronts, the 231 gates, as I revealed. This took place first, as I've explained. And this here represents the brain. Aleph with every letter with Aleph, Bait with every letter with Bait, Gimel with every letter with Gimel. I'll save that for another time. So here is Hokmah and Bina, with Kether being the divine influx in between this. Therefore it is said of Zeranpin that his head is open. Why? Because this mirrors the 7 holes in the face, the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, and the mouth. And so what we're being revealed here in the 7 days of creation is the face of the Blessed Holy One. Moreover, where do you take in waters? Via the mouth. And where is this located? This is day 7, which is associated with the sea. And moreover, the first day of this, it is said, let there be light, and God saw. To see is to have eyes. And so it is said that the head of Zeranpin in the concealed book is open. But here we're analyzing the 13 qualities. And so to understand what the 13 qualities of compassion and judgment are, we must continue the sequencing. After the 7 days of creation, we have the story of the garden. And following this, we have a genealogy. Let us first analyze what happens in the garden. In the garden, it is said, that he caused a deep sleep to fall on the man. And it is said he took from his side. This is the backs and fronts of the Sephiroth, and in the same likeness. And the man said, this is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. So what is the flesh and flesh of bone and bone? Flesh is red, mystery of the left side. And the bone is white. And so the mystery of flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone is the backs and fronts of the tree, which is the face of the Blessed Holy One. And so the mystery of this is in Shir HaShirim. His left hand is under my head, meaning the flesh is under the auspices of the head. And his right hand embraces me in the same likeness as the bone embraces the higher self, or the spirit. And from this stem 13 qualities of judgment and 13 qualities of compassion. And these are the genealogies. The genealogy of Eve and the genealogy of Adam. For remember, they are outside of the garden. And here are some proofs and seals that this indeed is the case. So, on the side of Adam, we see Noach in the position of Yesod. A key word for Yesod is righteous, and so Noach is called righteous. Another example of this, Enoch is in the place of Tifereth. Enoch walks with God, and so God, but he was not, so God took him. On the opposite side of Hawa, we herein have Eve as the top point of Kether, and we have Cain. in the position of Hokmah. And it is said wisdom built a house, and so Cain builds a city, and he calls it Hanak, because he established, as it is written, wisdom built a house with 7 pillars, established it with understanding, as he named it Hanak, and filled it with knowledge. And so Adam and Eve's genealogy have exactly 13, and these are the 13 qualities. Now, if you're wondering what the progression of this lightning-like sequence is, it's the progression of the 231 gates, which was alluded to in the previous video, in the expansions. So, regarding this, these aspects of the beard are rugged, and they represent both sides respectively. And so together, these are the 13 qualities of compassion and the 13 qualities of judgment. They are the beard of the Blessed Holy One. For the Torah itself is a body. The first 7 days of creation is the face. And before creation began, the gates expanded, creating the brain. And here we have the beard of the Most Blessed Holy One, which is created out of the 2 genealogies of Adam and Eve. Eve says she begot a son with the help of Yod-He-Vav-He, meaning the first tree. In addition, the 7 days of creation, what does it says of Lamech? Lamech we find in Tifereth, which is associated with the number 7. Lamech has 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. And Lamech is said, cursed be 7 times 70, for 7 are the first days of creation, representing 1 order, 70 another order. And of this genealogy, Lamech lived 777 years, a 3rd order, for everybody in the genealogy of Adam lives in the placement of hundreds, representing a 3rd rung. The next story that is touched upon is the story of Noah. Noah, as we remember, here is in the position of Yesod, which is called righteous. Noah gathers to himself 3 things. Those 3 things are 3 types of animals. Bahima ha'of asher hamesh. Clean cattle, or clean animals, clean birds, and clean creeping and crawling things. And unclean animals, unclean birds, and unclean creeping and crawling things. Of the unclean things, he takes in 2. And the word here is shani. And shani is scarlet, representing the left side. For the tree has 3 sephiroth to the left side, 3 to the right side, representing the unclean and the clean respectively. And Noach, being called perfectly righteous, is Yesod, which is the strengthening of these 2 pillars down, and the gathering into himself as Noach gathers these to himself. More importantly, the beard of a man's face, as it is written, comes from the ears. Why the ears? Because these are the left and right pillar respectively. And why does it say these 3 in respect to the left and right pillars? Because the beard of the face is aligned with the parameters of the neck, and they gather here, and there's an indentation at the base of the neck, slightly below where the Adam's apple is, and that indentation is this location. Furthermore, after the story of Noach in this situation of him gathering, then God floods the earth. But what does he say? For the end of all flesh has come before me. And then he says this. He says, for the end of all flesh has come before me. And he says, it grieves his heart. His heart precisely. Why? because correspondingly, the next section of the body would be the heart and the genealogies of Noah. But I digress. And so here we are. And this is the face of Zeranpin. And it is the Torah. The 231 gates representing the right and left brain respectively. The 7 days of creation representing the face. In the story of the Garden of Eden, we learn flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, and the two cleave. And then here we see the 13 attributes of judgment and mercy. And as an extra bonus, I've revealed to you guys the location of the neck. And for this reason, the Torah is the body of the Father. Uncover not his nakedness. And so when a Torah is finished, they bury it. This is the beard of Zeranpin, but the beard of Arikanpin is different. The beard of Arikanpin can only be seen through paths. And so I return to the original Partsufim, that of Atik. And with that being said, I will conclude the second portion of this video. Shalom, Selah.